All right, guys. So our next topic here we're going to get into is there's been some news here. There's two bits of news here. One, I told you off the top of the show here that John Knight will be joining us, and John Knight is indeed joining us here now. So before we get into it, how you doing today, John?
I'm doing pretty good. Running a little late today, but yeah, other than that, good.
Hey, it happens, dude. It's
No,
we got busy lives, you know.
it's all right. I missed the one segment that I could miss though because I haven't seen Mortal Kombat yet, so it kind of I guess it worked out in that regard.
Yeah, our great what do you call the person who puts the plan together? The like I don't know what you would call it, but they had some great foresight to put that as the first topic there. It
Yeah.
was me. That was me, obviously. But yeah,
Well done.
so we're gonna get into the second one though, which we talked about this. I think this article in particular, this is about Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Some of the best, probably the absolute best in my opinion, at least for me, the most enjoyable single player true like RPG games like ever made. They were awesome, and I was always very disappointed that they never made a third one. Still waiting on that, especially after all the. I was actually really shocked they didn't make one once EA got the exclusive rights to make Star Wars games, and then Star Wars was popping off because it was back with the Force Awakens and all this shit. But then they didn't make KOTOR, which was like people have been clamoring for a KOTOR 3 for like 10 years now. Like, I don't understand why they never made it. But back in, I think it was when this article actually references when we talked about this, like, and it was back in like January, there were some rumbles that there would Aspire was going to be making a KOTOR like remake of some sort or making an updated version, whatever it may be. But there's been essentially a confirmation now that Aspire is indeed making one, but there's two things about it that like I find kind of interesting here. One we'll get into first, I guess. At least I'll just say first was it says back in January, another report, which is like the one that we covered, I believe, suggested the project would contain elements from both KOTOR games, and then to quote bring certain things into the current Star Wars canon, which I find that to be kind of interesting because there's a lot potentially to that. So, but that would also, I don't know. We'll get into that here. We'll speculate. But then, so then the next quote is like this. This is public at this point. I've basically confirmed Aspire, which is a company that's ported a bunch of KOTOR games, is working on the remake. So, I guess the biggest question is like how much of a remake is this going to be? Are they going to just update the graphics, keep the the turn-based kind of action combat that they had, or are they going to update the combat? I was telling John when this news first came out because him and I we play more games than old Rick over there. So,
True.
but I brought this up to him, and I was thinking that the combat style that would kind of suit this game like perfectly, in my opinion, would be like the Soulsborne kind of combat, like your Demon Souls, your Dark Souls, your Bloodborne. I would love. It doesn't necessarily need to be as challenging or hard as those games. They're not hard games, really, but a lot of people find them very, very difficult. They're just great games, but and they're not really hard. Demon Souls is super easy, but either way, nevertheless, I think that combat would suit the game very well, just given, I mean, the weapons, right? I mean,
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
you know, I mean, like, I mean, look at Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order was the same way. It had very Soulsborne style combat, and then if
That
you
game
crank,
was really great.
yeah. So, like, I think if I had to guess, that's what they would do. That's what I would do. Is I would do that. I'd even go and work with some people at Respawn who made the game I just spoke of,
Fallen Order.
Order. Yeah. Just because I don't know, Aspire has pretty much. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but for the most part, they're pretty much known for porting games in general. I can't remember any off the top of my head that they like developed from scratch that were like big games. So
Yeah, they just
yeah, so I don't see why they wouldn't. They were going to update the combat. I mean, Respawn and has already worked with. I don't know. I would do that. That's personally what I would do. But then with the canon thing, that could be a lot of things. Because if they're going to like if they if they're specifically trying to bring things in from like the game series into current Star Wars canon, that could mean they're doing more than just like remaking the even I mean, it would be like an overhaul of the game because they would if they're combining the two games. I mean, they're making it one game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'd be kind of changing the game at that point, which would be good and bad potentially, but I could see it having a lot of fallout, with fans potentially. So
Yeah, people that have dedicated fans, I get that.
yeah, like people who want to just play a remake of KOTOR and play a remake of KOTOR 2, but then they get this thing that's neither of them, and
It'd be a lot better though.
it could be better. That's the thing, though, is it could be better or it could suck. Like just in general, like the game could come out and it could just suck at that point.
Yeah.
Like it had like even though the story is cool and like oh cool now Revan and all this stuff is canon, great. But the game sucks. Like you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
can still
what good-
have that.
what
So
good
it's
does
kind of
that
a
do?
yeah, it's a give and take. Like you could get a bunch of cool Star Wars lore that's now quote unquote canon, which honestly, like who gives a shit? I'd rather just have it be a good game. Like I've been living for 10 years without Revan being canon. He's canon because he was mentioned briefly in a Star Wars dictionary, which
Right.
doesn't mean anything because freaking Pablo Hidalgo and everybody has already said that anything outside of the movies is canon as long as it doesn't contradict the movies. That means nothing's canon unless it is the movies
Right.
in the
right.
end.
Yeah.
It's so
So
stupid.
yeah, so it's like
And unfortunately, the movies are some of the worst part of current Star Wars canon.
exactly,
Correct.
exactly. Because like think about it, if something in Mandalorian, which is great, contradicts the movie's
It's not
canon.
canon. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I don't like that that's how they're doing their canon now. Makes sense to
Evidently,
some
yeah.
degree, but just don't say stuff's canon that's not the movies then. And that's why I can't really accept the fact that oh, but it's going to be canon. No, not necessarily. if the movies need to change it or it goes against something in the movies, it's not canon. So I don't
Yeah.
know. What would you want to see? Rick, and let's go to Rick here since you're the least gamey person here, and that's not a reference to like food, like
No.
gamey food. But what would you need or want to see in this remake to make you want to actually play the game?
Lots of customizable stuff, from like lightsabers to outfits to Sith to Jedi, kind of like how it went before. And just good gameplay, because I'm not really that big of a fan of like turn-based like RPG sort of things. Like I want to be doing something, like I want to be running around slicing things, shooting things, and I think like Force Unleashed was like one of my favorite Star Wars games just because that's like what you did. You go around, you use the Force, you kill stormtroopers, you do whatever. And
Yeah.
for me, that would be cool. And obviously including like a bunch of like characters that people want to see, like Darth Revan and like maybe like Darth Malak and Malgus and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's the thing. Force Unleashed was like playing a Star Wars game with the cheats on.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's just like how the game was.
It was fun.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
love Force Unleashed. They were good games. I'm surprised they never made a third one of those. Like in all honesty, John, what about you? What are you looking to see most about this? If this does come out and it's like a remake or overhaul, what is it that you would actually want out of it?
I think the main thing that I want out of it is for them to stay true to the story, because I personally don't mind the turn-based RPG style elements of the first two, but I do understand that that's not everybody's cup of tea, and so I do think something that's a little more action oriented would bring in a broader fan base. Um, but the story is what sucked me in. I mean, while I liked that, while I didn't mind the gameplay at all, it was really the story that sucked me in and really made the game so phenomenal for me, and I think a lot of other people. So I hope that they keep, if they're going to remake it, I hope that they keep those same story elements in there and don't deviate too far from that. When you started talking, I started thinking about what it means for them to, because when we initially heard about this, I was super excited. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is going to be great. This is what I've wanted for so long, is another chance to revisit that world. And so I was really excited about it. But when you were pointing out about remake and stuff, it got me thinking, like, I am worried because of them talking about how they went canon and stuff. that to me sounds like
You froze, by the way.
In a
okay.
great spot.
Great
Yeah,
side.
it's a good face. So I didn't want you to get into something real deep. Why just that face going
Yeah.
on? So go on though.
So yeah, what was I saying? So anyway, like that phrasing of bring elements into canon or something that worries me because that sounds like a kind of double speak marketing term for we want Revan because we know Revan's popular and we can sell a lot of Revan merchandise.
True.
But we want to backdoor Revan into here with the least amount of bringing the rest of the stuff along from that because we don't want to be beholden to what came before. We want to be able to have Revan, but also change the story how we want and introduce elements that we feel are like we want to have it more streamlined to fit in with their new High Republic era that they're pushing hard now and stuff.
I don't want them to like, dude. That's the one thing I don't want them to do is make it like High Republic. Like just merge the two. I don't want that.
Well, see, I don't think that they'll merge it because I think the High Republic is set after the Old Republic. My concern is that they will use the Old Republic as a way to basically the Old Republic as a prequel to the High Republic and try and bring in elements that they're establishing in their High Republic series. Maybe I'm wrong, but Disney with their whole synergy thing and they want all their properties working together, and all this stuff. I just that worries me now when I really start thinking about what a remake is versus a port or an update or some of the other wording that they could have used.
Remaster.
And also
a
remaster, yeah, exactly. And also the idea that they wanted to bring they didn't say they want to bring all the canon. It said something like elements of the canon, right?
Yeah. It says bring certain things into the current Star Wars canon.
Yeah,
just
certain is it's very like either you bring the game and it's all canon, or you don't bring anything and you just remake it for the fans of the game. Like I'm not sure what that certain elements that word concerns me a little bit.
Well, to me, you know what that really does sound like? It sounds exactly like what you kind of hinted at, is that they're taking it a step further than what I would ever want them to do. But they're like making it a more of a retcon than a remake in general. And they're going to say, this is in the High Republic era and like tell the same story ish, and just like do that. Like they're gonna do the games, merge them into one, maybe only do one of the games, but whatever. But essentially, completely change everything that fundamentally makes the game what it is, because it's no longer Knights of the Old Republic if it's gonna be set in the High Republic. Because elsewise, bringing stuff into current Star Wars canon would actually imply that it would have to be set in the High Republic, because there is no current Star Wars canon really for the Old Republic.
Yeah.
None of it's canon, really. I mean, the only thing that was like Darth Bane was in Clone Wars. That's it.
But timeline wise, I mean, if you can correct me if you remember. I don't know that I remember these exactly, but I thought the Old Republic was set like 1,000 to 2,000 years prior to Yavin, right?
Yeah, it's like 3,000 years beforehand.
Is it 3,000? Okay, I knew it was a few thousand.
Well, I don't remember when I might be thinking of actually the MMO as opposed to, or that might even be like Darth Bane.
Okay.
Either way, it's either the Old Republic, the Darth Bane stuff, or KOTOR. One of those three. I think the furthest back they went was 3,000 years. So one of the three.
That's a while back.
Yeah, I forget which it is, but
okay. Well, I'm pretty sure the High Republic is only set like 200 years before the Battle of Yavin or something like that, because Yoda actually is involved with the High Republic, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So as long as they base it far enough back, hopefully that will keep them from shoehorning in elements of other things that they're trying to establish. But it's just
KOTOR was 3,956 before the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah. So it was well before the High Republic. So that would
Mhm.
make that's going to make it assuming they don't try and like remake it to the point where it's only been like 600 years before. Yeah.
I'm gonna look up and see if SWTOR was any difference. 300 years after the events of KOTOR, so we're still looking at like 3,600 years then at that point. So the
Yeah.
MMO takes place about 3,600 years beforehand.
Okay. So
And
we're not
then when
so
did Darth Bane die? Yeah, so and then he was only 1,000 years before Yavin, essentially when he
yeah.
died. So like, yeah. So KOTOR's the oldest, then SWTOR, then Bane was long after that.
Okay.
So, but
And
Bane's
I think
really the only thing considered Old Republic stuff. He's really far removed from it that is
sure.
even in canon because just because of his brief ghost appearance in that one episode of Clone Wars,
Yeah.
which was originally going to be Bane and Revan, but they didn't do it.
Ooh.
I've seen you can look it up though. There was an interview Filoni did out there where they actually I don't know if it's actually the same thing or it was just dialogue that he was talking about it, then the video showed the stuff. But I think it was actually like him talking about the scene, and then they were showing like the previs stuff with Revan that was going to be in the Clone Wars. It's
Yeah.
out there. It exists. It was cool. Like it
Okay.
would have been cool, but alas wasn't. But yeah, that's my worry though, is that they're gonna like more retcon this stuff and kind of
Yeah.
like use elements of the game, use the base story of the games, but then inevitably make a new game to make it fit their current direction. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I at the same time, I find that kind of an odd thing for them to do by having like Aspire being the people to do it because that's like making a new game from the ground up at that point in a lot of ways, as opposed to what the company traditionally is known for. So I don't know, because I feel like if they wanted to just make a new entry in the series to just retcon everything, I don't think they would call it like a KOTOR remake or dub it a
No.
Sure.
KOTOR remake,
Yeah.
which they might be, and this might just be these articles about this stuff being in the works, just kind of a misnomer on their part because like they're getting this information obviously second or third hand saying that this KOTOR remake is happening, but I mean it could very well just be like an entirely new project that they're not going to market as a KOTOR remake in any way, shape, or form. They're
Yeah.
just going to say this is the new canon for this, and it's like so it could end up being good. I just hope that if they're gonna like, if they are in fact gonna kind of retcon all this stuff, make a new story kind of around these characters, that it's at least good and it's not like so far removed from what it was. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't like my initial thought of like them just setting this in like the High Republic era. I hate that because it just seems like something like they would do, especially if the High Republic wasn't doing as well as they had hoped it would, which is kind of where they're at right now. So, like, well, let's just set this stuff here and bring in all this stuff that we know people like into it, and it'll make it good.
Right.
Not that that's what they're doing or what they're gonna do, but like,
It could.
yeah, it's like okay, like it's like what are the kids like? Vader, let's get some more Vader. I mean, it sounds like that. And the same with Revan. Okay, well, let's just throw Revan in here. Like maybe they'll like it then. Maybe
Right.
they'll read the High Republic if Revan's involved. Like I just don't want it to be that kind of thing. Which
No.
if it's not good, that's what it's gonna be. Like that's what everyone's gonna complain about because that's what it's essentially gonna turn into, whether it was or not. That's my biggest fear with it. So
Yeah. I mean, and this is a little bit off topic, but you were talking about how we waited so long for a Knights of the Old Republic 3. It's shocking to me that in a day and age where there's a new sports game, these sports games, like you get a new NBA game every year, you get a new Madden every year, you get a new basketball game, and you also get new games every other. Like Assassin's Creed had a stretch of like 5 or 6 years in a row where there was a new Assassin's
look at
Creed
Call of
game
Duty.
every year. Call of Duty every year you get a new game. Like all these franchises that are out there that you get new games every year, if not every other, or every other year, if not every year. And Knights of the Old Republic couldn't get a third game. Like that's baffling to me. I don't know what the sales like back when I was playing those games. I didn't look at things like sales numbers and stuff like I do now. So I'm don't know. I don't know if there's a sales reason it didn't get a third, or if Lucasfilm just didn't have a third story to tell, or what. But
They just
it's
didn't
just
want to make
shocking to
it.
me.
Yeah,
They did.
they were like ready to go on it. I was just reading stuff about this not too long ago, because like a BioWare rep who worked on KOTOR 1 and 2, just did like a recent interview just like a couple months ago, and he was asked about it, and he was like, "Yeah, we wanted to make it. We tried to like get it made, and like they didn't want to like make it, and then they were like working with another company, like, and they just like Lucasfilm didn't know." What they wanted to do essentially. Like they didn't know if like they wanted to just have them make the BioWare 3 or if like BioWare was gonna pull out because they were working on Mass Effect at the time. It was like that's when like this was spinning up. So like they were dedicating all their time into like Mass Effect and getting all that stuff done. Then like Lucasfilm, because like they were doing Mass Effect, they didn't know if they wanted to just get someone else to do the KOTOR thing, but like they still had this KOTOR 3 thing planned and they wanted to make the game, but I don't know. It was just like like timing didn't work out, and then there was just
Sure.
creative stuff that didn't work out with it, and it was just like, okay, kind of sucks. But
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
but yeah, to your point, we get a Call of Duty game every other year, like or every year, and they're from two different
Yeah.
companies for God's sake too. You get the Black
Yeah.
Ops stuff, you get Modern Warfare stuff. They have literally two different game divisions making the same goddamn game, and we can't even get
Yeah.
KOTOR 3, which is something that like everyone wants. I mean, if you played like everybody who played KOTOR loved KOTOR. I don't know anybody who played it who didn't love it. You know?
I loved 2 as well. Like I
Mhm.
went back when 2 came out and I started playing that. Like I thought that was I mean, maybe it wasn't quite as the story wasn't quite as I don't know, epic or whatever as the first, but it was still really damn good. Like it was a great game.
It's hard to live up to the first one.
Sure, exactly.
Like the first one, like has like an M Night Shyamalan twist at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like especially because like I was a kid, so it's not like I could foresee that happening. That like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I am Revan. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like it just blew me away when I was playing it.
Right.
And then the second one, though, you just kind of knew the whole time that she was the bad guy. Like, I think that was kind of like the pitfall for it, where like the story wasn't as intriguing and didn't have that twist for you at the end. It was just like kind of predictable. I mean, you did get Darth
Mhm.
Nihilus stuff in the second one, which was kind of
Yeah.
the coolest part.
Darth
But
Nihilus
then,
is cool.
yeah, but then you just kind of had to deal with like he wasn't really in it enough. Like he was just you go and you like fight his ghost, and then you move on. Like it should have been more about Nihilus. Like in all honesty, not the whatever her fucking name was, the old lady. I can't remember her name.
It's been too long since I played.
Yeah. Because it'd be cool though to see like if they kind of combine the good elements of both being Nihilus into the first, story of like Revan and Malik and all that and blah blah blah, and somehow like Nihilus is involved and they just kind of retweak everything, cut out the bad stuff from 2. None of it was really bad. It was just kind of 2 was kind of rushed, so a lot of it wasn't as like thought out story wise. That was like it's really only pitfall. So either way, in the end, whatever they do with this, if they're gonna slap a KOTOR brand on it or use Revan's my favorite character, so if they're gonna use him, I need it to be good. Like,
Yeah.
like Revan,
Right.
Malik, and Nihilus are some of the coolest characters like to ever be written in Star Wars. So I just want it to be good.
Make it good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you make it good, then I'll be happy. So that's about it. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Are you worried at all about? First off, these KOTOR games are pretty old. So have you played KOTOR? Have you played SWTOR? Let us know about that down in the comment section below. But if you have played them, are you kind of worried about the verbiage of this? Because I guess we should kind of like put an asterisk by this that none of this came straight from like Lucasfilm or anything. So they're the ones that are going to have the overall say in what happens with any sort of story beats. So I guess we should probably wait and see before anybody gets too, gets their panties too much in a bunch let's wait for an official announcement from Lucasfilm to actually say what is actually happening as far as story and canon stuff goes. But otherwise, though, are you excited about any sort of KOTOR remake in general, whether it's just a remaster, a complete retool of everything, merging the games into one? Let us know what you think down in the comment section below.